Right. Onwards and downwards, apparently. It's not the first dungeon we've gone through where we're supposed to go deeper down in order to make progress, but for some reason I remembered we had to go up to reach the end of the Chaos Shrine and fight the final boss. But then it doesn't really matter what direction the stairs go, just that we're making progress by going onto them and reaching the next floor. Definitely running out of potions, but at least I'm sure they'll last us for all the repeated elemental boss fights. Next up is the Kraken. I suppose it's less visually jarring for us to see those blue tornado things instead of sharks, considering there's no water here. Okay. More damage than we see the hammer do to most enemies around here, but excuse me for expecting the Hammer of Thor to do more damage to something that's literally made of water. Again, I have no clue why the game decided to give the medic our weakest physical fighter, a weapon that explicitly mentions a major god. I also can't help finding it a bit strange that Excalibur, an enchanted sword for a king, is somehow significantly better than a hammer for use by a god. I'm not saying I dislike the idea of Excalibur being an absolutely major weapon in this game. I'm saying that in terms of scale, that Thor's hammer should be higher. Anyway, time to deal with some lazy palette swaps that just mention the sea in their names. I suppose they fit to our current environment here more than a floating fish would. Though part of me is wondering if we're going to see any of the Sangin on this floor. Not too sure we're gonna take them out in one swift turn, but I can certainly pray for it. I hate it when we're outnumbered in this game, even if Wesker's multi-hit spells are the perfect solution to the enemy outnumbering us. Huh. And there we go, we took them down about as swiftly as we hoped. Bit of a shame that they managed to get so many hits on us before I took them down, though. That is one aspect of this game that most definitely did not age well. But so many other elements are actually pretty timeless, and I'm very much surprised how much it all works when you put it all together. The lack of a narrative means it's a hell of a lot easier to pick up and replay from the start. There's plenty of different class combinations you can play the game as, all of them equally valid, though some are more challenging than others. The music certainly gets the job done, though only the menu theme that our heroes used to enter the dungeon, and the victory theme really endured beyond this game, as far as I know. I mean, sure, the regular battle theme is catchy and doesn't really get annoying, per se, but it doesn't have a lot of time on the clock before it starts to repeat itself. Or at least that's how it feels to me. But maybe that's a false impression, since we tend to end most of the fights in this game pretty damn quick. Then we start another one rather quickly because this game has quite a high encounter rate. I checked. Even the grass and caves in Pokemon have nothing on the sheer frequency of enemy attacks in the dungeons in this game. Certainly going to run out of regular potions before high potions. Part of me feels like I shouldn't be so concerned with keeping our team's health so close to full for so long. The other can't help feeling rattled at just how sudden the boss fight against the Lich came at us. I'm I'm pretty sure the trigger is us walking close to the next staircase for these bosses. That's how it seemed to be with the Snake Lady, but who's to say that they're gonna keep following that rule? Or how far away the next staircase is, or that we're not going to have more boss fights even after the rematch against Tiamat without it being the absolute final boss of the game. More water elementals, and I can't help feeling they should have either been called water twisters or maelstroms. It doesn't really matter what they're called, we're taking them down simply enough, after all. It's just that there's not really much else I can talk about at the moment. The enemies on this floor are starting to feel threatening, but it's still pretty one-sided in our favor, and I'm not sure these things were threats even when they were new. I'm sure we'll start having trouble with the enemies on the next floor, though, but I'm not sure when I'm gonna pull back. Considering how much footage is left, there's no way I'm taking on all 4 elemental bosses and then somehow making it to the final boss in one smooth push. Not when we had to spend so many healing items just to get this far, and when I have no clue just how much tougher these repeat bosses are compared to what they used to be. And there are some sanguinant sharks that I thought would be on this floor. It certainly took them long enough to show up, and they look about as out of place as I expected, considering they're very much water-based foes in an environment that has no water whatsoever. Right. Should have had our physical attacks go for the sharks in the back. Well, at least they didn't get another chance to cause some damage. Huh. 3 gravestones on the way down. At least I think those were very large gravestones. And there's the staircase. Huh. The Kraken showed up a little earlier than I was expecting based on how close we had to get to the other staircases for their respective bosses. The cape still looks pretty ridiculous on a tentacled monster like that. Hell, his pose implies that he's trying to be dignified somehow, and that doesn't really work when you have slime dripping from your tentacles. But I suppose it's pretty distinctive, and hey, when I look through how the bosses looked in the Pixel remaster compared to the PSP version, I can't help feeling the PSP version just looks better. For example, there was more vibrancy in that Snake Lady Marilyn's pose in this version, and they kept the fact that she's a Snake Lady with multiple arms holding swords. They did not really change her design. They just changed her pose and added a few more details to the design. Our basic Thunder Spell is doing more damage than his more powerful lightning attack. Granted, he was dividing that attack among 4 different targets and he's explicitly weak to lightning. Still, with the combination of how little damage he's doing per attack and his ink trick having so little impact even when it manages to blind someone, I can't help feeling he's an easier boss than any of the other 3. Bit funny that the 3rd major boss feels like he's got less working for him than the 1st and 2nd. And I suppose I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if Tiamat was a good boss purely because of her stats or because of her tactics. Or if they are going to do anything to really enhance her for this rematch. But yeah, I am definitely not a fan of fighting against the same bosses we've already beaten before, even if their stats have been raised to still be a threat to us this close to the ending. Facing them the first time is when we have their most impact, partly because of the build-up to fighting them, and a build-up that this dungeon doesn't give them for the rematches. The first one, Lich, was a complete unknown as he bars me from making progress. Now all 4 of them are just... Ugh. Seriously, it's just funny how these bosses were enhanced in terms of power, but they have lost so much gravitas the way they're being pulled, even if they are actually more challenging. And I can't help feeling that it would have been better if these bosses only showed up once in the entire game. Granted, fighting them again is part of what makes this dungeon special, but if you have to make something earlier feel less special to make the next thing feel special, I can't help feeling like that's a mistake in its own right. And as always, beating the boss feels abrupt. Really wish there was some visual sign that we're getting close to beating a particular enemy. Something to make me tense up and go just a little more, instead of fighting as if the guy still has an obscene amount of health even when he's borderline dead. Seeing their health bars is one way to do that, but the way that the older Metroid games would have an enemy change color as you damage them was another good way. And, unlike the vampire from back in the Marsh Cave, it's not like we have to worry about any palette swaps for the elemental bosses. Anyway, on to Tiamat's floor. I'll decide if we're pulling back after I see how we end up handling things after fight number 4. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but it's strange how the earth and fire elemental things, random encounters, had a monster in the tornado thing, but the water and air ones don't. Wait, what? Tiamat was even more abrupt than the Kraken! This is just... dear God, she broke off my train of thought if I ever had one. Seriously, I should not be getting caught off guard by something this dangerous showing up. I didn't even see the staircase that time. We just went immediately from a random encounter to a damn boss fight in just a few damn steps, and there was nothing to give my brain something to brace myself over. The Lich could get away with that. He was the one who started this pattern. I don't like having to fight these bosses again as a concept, but the Lich at least set the standard for how these rematches would trigger. The other 2 followed the same pattern that we were close to the stairs and couldn't walk on any other tiles than the one that triggered the boss. But Tiamat, it feels like she's broken the pattern here, and she is also feeling like enough of a threat compared to everything before her that I am using a buff to our defense in order to try to hold out against her a little better. And hell, even after casting something to defend us in glowing gold, we're still taking a good amount of damage. Which again, doesn't make me all that convinced that stat-affecting moves really mean all that much around here. She's just doing such a good job of unnerving me, even though I doubt the game has enhanced her stats all that much, if at all, considering the absolute last elemental boss we dealt with just to gain access to the Chaos Shrine was Tiamat in the Flying Fortress. And I'm not sure if that's because of just how powerful she is compared to everyone else, the element of surprise when she showed up, or how mentally ground down I feel after dealing with the other 3 bosses in the same damn attempt to go through the dungeon. There's just a lot going for her, especially the fact that she's the physically most menacing boss of the 4 with the most dynamic pose of the 4, to make this really feel... oh dear God. I probably should have set up some more defensive stuff than just that one spell, but it kind of looks like we're holding our own against her for the moment, and I'd like to have a lot more punches thrown at her to try to end this before Morn runs out of MP. It would be a lot easier to say that, though, if I had some idea just how much abuse she can take. Huh. Odd that something literally called poison gas doesn't poison us. At the very least, I was expecting something to happen to Boromir since he doesn't have one of those ribbons. Huh. I wasn't expecting Tiamat to land a strike that weak. I mean, sure, I cast a protection spell on us, but she's been hitting us reasonably hard before that. So why did that specific hit land so weakly against us? Was it just a case of an unseen dice roll being less favorable for her or something? Or is there something else going on that I just don't know about? Well, she's certainly hit Morn pretty damn hard. I know Morn has weaker armor than Boromir, but I didn't think the difference was that extreme. So, magic hits Boromir harder than anyone else, but Boromir is pretty physically resistant. I suppose that makes sense, but I shouldn't be so damn confused about how things are going for us in this battle. Considering how late in the game it is, you would think I would have had a better grasp of some of the systems underneath the game by clip 32. Okay, so Scourge is an attack that just causes instant death if it hits. That's certainly frustrating. Is anyone ever a fan of attacks that ignore all health points and just drops someone instantly? It's about as frustrating as dealing with a one-shot weapon in a shooter game or any other instant fail condition. I get that we want things to be challenging this far in, but come on. One-hit kills just feel like such utter bullshit, in my opinion, regardless of what genre of game it is. Hell, in many of the random encounters here, I feel kinda like an ass because we've been beating enemies with just one punch or one slice. I'm just glad that Boromir is the only one who fell to that particular attack. I've had the occasional playthrough of this game where I end up getting a full party kill in a single turn when I was about to win a random encounter that I beat multiple times in the same dungeon in the same session. I think the first time I usually run into something like that is all the way back in the Ice Cave, a dungeon that does not even have any bosses in it. Not sure why I'm hesitating so much to revive Boromir. What are the odds of him getting knocked down the instant we bring him back up? Really? Tyson only... Seriously, what is with the range and numbers that some of these attacks cause? I was hoping the odds against that were low. Dear God, I was never expecting this fight to be harder than the first time we fought her. At least not by this degree. Just how much tougher is the final boss after this? This one is already feeling like quite the trial after the gauntlet we've already gone through just to get this far, and there is worse to come. Tiamat is just so full of surprises at the moment, and I shouldn't feel this damn surprised in a rematch against a dragon we've already slain. I just wish I knew if we're doing well against her, or if we're absolutely screwed and are just stalling out our death here. Oh dear, we most definitely can't afford to lose Wesker. He's been doing the most consistent damage against this worm. Why do I keep hesitating to send out the highest level spells? This is most definitely a time to pull out the big guns. Seriously, if this isn't enough to pull out the best stuff we've got, then what is? Well, at least now I'm finally pulling out the absolute strongest ice spell we've got. Son of a bitch! Was really hoping that pouring that much MP into a single attack would do much more than that. But apparently it was still enough. Bloody hell. That was a lot more harrowing than I was expecting, and it's not like I was expecting Tiamat to be a complete pushover or something. 666 experience from a fight that damn near finished us, and only 1 kill. Definitely feels like the game designers got a bit cheeky there. Granted, money doesn't mean much to us at this point, but I certainly would have appreciated more experience points as a reward. Because I am under the hopefully understandable and hopefully wrong impression that with my tactics, level 44 might not be enough for whatever comes after this. Whatever the case, I am definitely abusing the fact that the PSP version seems to let you save anywhere because it's a handheld game. I most definitely need a break soon after nearly getting broken. Apparently, though, I've just got to go through one more forgettable nothing fight to close us up and possibly regain a little self-confidence that we deserve to be this far in. Not that taking down a bunch of purple worms means anything after the fight we just had against Tiamat. And we gain several times the experience taking down some forgettable grunts while beating the boss that nearly killed us, barely gained us anything. How does that make sense?